So I've already made a video today, or rather a reel on Instagram, and I put 2 different ones out on 2 different Instagram accounts about a handout that went out in New Jersey to middle school students, telling them to download an app called the Stop app. This app allows them to report cyberbullying, harassment, discrimination, ethics violations like plagiarism and cheating, weapons violations, weapons in school and so forth, drug use in school, etc. Okay, and I'm sure sexual assault and all those kind of things. Supposedly anonymously, and the sheet says the student can then get help and so forth, but how are they going to get help if they're reporting anonymously? They can also send video, pictures, texts, copies of, screenshots, whatever, through the app to the school, not the police. Now, cyberstalking is a crime. Cyberbullying is a crime. It is. It's an actual crime. Weapons possession by these kids, period, they're minors, is a crime, especially in New Jersey where this was handed out. It may even be a felony depending on what the circumstances are. If it's stolen, etc. It might be a felony possession in and of itself. I don't know. But these are crimes. Plagiarism and so forth, no. Discrimination, kind of in the eye of the beholder, don't you think? Can you imagine getting in a fight with somebody and just accusing them of discrimination? Now that we're teaching kids about microaggression, do you think someone might report someone for discrimination? Who's receiving these reports on the other end? What will they do with the reports? If a kid is reported on, what kind of due process rights are they going to have? It's inside the school. Not to mention, as we now know from Loudoun County, there are states with laws, and don't think it's just Virginia, they're not the only ones. There are laws and or permissions, if you will, exceptions and policies in school districts that allow schools to not report these things to the local police, but to handle them in-house without it coming back to bite them. Also to not report to the parents. So what they're doing is telling children to modify their personal property, which is probably your personal property because you probably paid for the phone, with an app they claim is anonymous, but we all know better. We know how apps work. When you download an app, it can now track your every movement. It can track every single thing you do, even in other apps. No way to know. So the student now may download this app that connects to the school for reporting purposes. We already know, the data already shows, as I did a live video a couple weeks ago, that once the anti-bullying campaigns went into effect, kids were reporting on each other to bully them. They were saying things about kids that weren't even true as a means of bullying, as a means of harassment. I'm going to get you into trouble. I'm going to accuse you of something you didn't do and then put you in the unenviable position of having to defend yourself because the school doesn't observe the due process rights that the police are absolutely obligated to do. So they're now bringing the reporting of actual crimes inside the school. The school is under no obligation to report to you or to the police where your student or any student would have their constitutional rights protected. We don't know where the data is going. We don't know who's reviewing it. We don't know how things will be adjudicated within the school, what liability issues will apply, because remember, they have qualified immunity for all manner of things they do inside the school. We don't know if these reports are going to result in the student receiving counseling, and what is the student's recourse? What is the policy or procedure for them to fight against these things in a school where they're required to be? So this is not a small thing. So those of you who might be tempted to think, well, what's the problem? They'll have a way to anonymously report. They have a way to anonymously report these things now. If you go to the police and you file a police report, your name is on it, but you're protected as a minor. You're protected by law from having your name released to the press or to strangers or even to your accuser up to a point. If it goes to trial, they have to know. They have to be able to confront their accuser. In some states, other states protect if it's rape, etc. I don't know all the laws or ins and outs, but I'm saying that this protection already exists, and we shouldn't be instructing, never mind encouraging, students to file reports on each other with an app. Things that are technically crimes. Even violating, plagiarism and ethics rules within the school, own that. You should not be triangulating. If for those of you who don't know what triangulating is, it's when you tell a student that in order to solve a problem they're having with another person, they've got to go through a third person who's not involved, usually an adult, if you're talking about a child. This is considered toxic behavior in a family when kids do it with parents and parents allow it instead of trying to encourage the siblings or the children to resolve it between themselves because you weren't present, you didn't see. You're encouraging the person who's more willing to make stuff up or embellish or, just exaggerate, whatever. You're encouraging that behavior. You're encouraging acting. You're encouraging emoting. You're encouraging the person who tells a better story to do that, to hone those skills, not interpersonal skills of conflict resolution. And that's what this app will do, only with much higher stakes because you're reporting crimes in some cases. They shouldn't be triangulating. That's a toxic behavior. We shouldn't teach kids to do that. They shouldn't be encouraging or permitting anything that would allow somebody to lie with impunity, which this is doing. There's no penalty for false reporting that I can see. How are they going to find out it's false until they go and put the person who's accused on the spot? It's now incumbent upon the accused to prove they're not guilty of whatever they're accused of. And do you really think they're going to have their rights respected inside the school? We already know that's not going to happen. We know that if you're accused, you're guilty. That's what anti-racism teaches. It's about impact, not intent, remember? Well, so-and-so perceived that you bullied them, and I know this firsthand. I'm going to tell you this story, and then I'm going to sign off. But I want you to think about this story that happened to my child in a middle school 2 years ago. She was standing around with a group of friends at recess. She was not even participating in the conversation, merely listening to the conversation. She was part of it. A small group of kids off to the side, speaking in a regular speaking voice, not yelling, not anything, talking about a Trump rally one of the students had gone to. That student was speaking favorably about the rally, had a good time, enjoyed it. The other kids were asking about it. Another kid walks by, overhears a piece of the conversation, jumps into the conversation and says, "Are you talking about Trump?" And the girl is like, "Yes, I went to a rally." And this kid lost his, what? Started screaming at her to disavow the president, to say F Trump, like how, you're not supposed to say, "Let's go, Brandon." But regardless, F Trump. This student wouldn't do it. Other students wouldn't do it. This kid got up in their face and started threatening them. When you get up big in front of somebody and you're this close to their face to the point where spit is flying in their face, that is physically threatening, especially when you're talking about male to female, big to small. This is what was going on. And things got so heated that they thought he was going to haul off and start punching. Finally, a teacher hears what's going on, comes over. They all go to the office. They all are reprimanded. My daughter included, who was just standing by a tree with her friends, not even participating in this conversation, just listening. And they all had to apologize to the kid. Oh, yes, what he did was wrong and he shouldn't have done it, but he felt threatened. He felt marginalized. He felt triggered because they were talking about a racist, according to the school. Opinion much? Nothing objective about that statement. And therefore it was the right thing to do for them to undergo restorative justice discussions, missing class, by the way, to apologize to this person who jumped into their conversation, started screaming at them, asserting his opinion over theirs, and they had lost all their rights. Needless to say, my child was damaged from that. And I don't use that word lightly, because when you feel wrongly accused of something and forced to apologize for something you didn't do, or then now you're in trouble for not apologizing, that eats at you. Like that goes to like the core of who you are and your integrity. No child should be forced to say, "I'm sorry" for something they didn't do. That is a boundary violation. That is so wrong. That is psychological abuse. And yet that happened. That was the beginning of a process that then went on for several months through a series of other boundary violations within the school, including her getting cyberbullied by people accusing her of being a bully for breaking up with a boy she didn't want to go out with anymore. But they used text message to accuse her of being a mean, horrible bully towards him. No evidence whatsoever, but the scrutiny then was on her. This will not end well. This is going to create violence in our schools. This is the most irresponsible thing I've seen go on in a school in a long time. And yet I guarantee you there are parents out there thinking, yes, of course she should download this. We need to have a better way to report bullying, as if bullying is such a huge problem that we need this. Or as if there's no other way to go about reporting bullies, if there's no other way to resolve these problems. Parents, I'm speaking to you. You should be encouraging your child to deal with bullies head on. Encourage them to stick up for themselves and or ignore the people if they're physically afraid, or if they're so physically afraid that they can't even get away from the person in school, they need to call the police. If you're being stalked, harassed, tailed, bothered, threatened, etc., even if it's on campus, file a damn police report, because I promise you the school never will. And these things are crimes. Plagiarism, cheating, I hate to say it, none of your damn business. It's wrong. It devalues grades, etc., but it's still not your business. You should be discouraging your child from reporting on other students, if only because you don't actually know for certain they're cheating. And if they know for certain they're cheating, they should own it. Don't be anonymous. Own it. Go to the kid and you tell the kid, I saw you cheating. You need to take the test again, or you need to say something. And if you don't own the fact that you're cheating, I'm going to go and tell the teacher that I saw you cheating. And if you aren't willing to do that, if your child is afraid to do that, they need to bow out and step out of it. This won't end well. Go to the teacher and silently report it. It's not going to end well for you. Someone will find out. Anonymously report it. You could be wrong. They might still find out because they're going to get in trouble. What if they weren't cheating, etc. and so forth? Do you really want to encourage this kind of snitching with your children? This isn't teaching them how to resolve conflicts. This is not teaching them to take pride in their boundaries and their integrity. This is a gross violation of their person and their mind. So that's my advice to you. If this thing comes home, don't let your kid download it. If your kid has downloaded it, remove it and explain to them how you don't support this sort of thing. And if you do support this sort of thing, well, we're not the same kind of people. If you find this video informative, helpful, etc., please consider liking it, sharing it, subscribing to the channel, and also join my locals community where we can have conversations like this. And I can give you one-on-one support if you're trying to leave the school or just deal with things that are going on in the school. TheReasonWeLearn.locals.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.